Okay, here you can see on the OS 10 Apple, we have opened two different terminals, and the Vagrant is installed to be able to create the virtual machine that we need, because the Horizon is basically available for Linux, CentOS, and Ubuntu. So in this case, we have also installed the Virtualbox to be able to run the virtualization on the Vagrant. So we quickly look at the Vagrant file. You can see that here we are defining two different CentOS 7 and CentOS 8. So to have the option, so we comment out the CentOS 7 for now, and we uncomment the Ruby code and save it. So here you can see that we have a choice between CentOS 7, call it 7, and CentOS 8, call it 8. So now we say Vagrant up 8. Now it's attempting to connect to the Virtualbox provider that has the CentOS 8, and this will take a while to progress and download the Virtualbox for installation. Okay, now you can see that the image was downloaded and the Vagrant op command was issued, and then it asks you which network would you like to initiate, or which interface would you like to initiate the network on, because the server should be accessible from outside as we configured it in the Vagrant file. Right at the bottom, which is config VM network public network. So now we are connecting to the version 8 of the CentOS via SSH. Now we do SU. And since the ifconfig and netstat is not available normally on CentOS 8, we do install the net tools. So now with the interface configuration, you can see we have two different IPs. One of them is for local, and this IP should be available from outside. So what we do now, we try to ping that IP, and we can see that the result is successful. And that is also in the routing table, as you can see over here. Which means if we run a web server in this particular case, it will be available from outside. And since the Horizon API or the console is also served on a particular TCP port, then that should be also available as soon as we install it on the CentOS. Now we can have a quick look at the Virtualbox graphic user interface and see our CentOS running on that. I've attempted to actually run the CentOS on Docker as well, which would have been faster. But the main problem is that Apple Hypervisor will not allow internal connections for the virtualized server, and then we actually couldn't connect to the Horizon. That's why I used the Virtualbox and Vagrant for this purpose. Now in the Virtualbox you can see that it's running right now, and these are the general and the system and display information. You can actually shut it down here as well. You can pause it and so on, and you can delete the image if you need to. Now we attempt to install the Horizon according to the OpenStack documentation, and this is for the Linux systems. You can see this is RPM-based distribution on Fedora. So here we already are connected. So we SU to the root. Install the necessary packages. Okay. Now we pull the code from the Git repository. Our communication still is up. Now, according to the installation, we copy this file as example to the actual file. Then we run the pip3 install tox, which is the Python libraries necessary. And then we can basically run the server as tox-e run server. In our particular case, here it says as a note, the default port for the run server is 8000, which might be already consumed by Heat API CFN in devstack. If running in devstack, tox-e run server minus localhost 9000 will start the server. In our case, because we have a bridge network, so we have to run it on the appropriate IP and the necessary port. So basically, we're going to do run server on the port, on the IP that it's bridged and available from outside, and the ports 8,000 in this particular case. So we can see the Django is starting up now. So now we should be able to do a CURL on that particular port locally, and we can see it is accessible. Now we're doing it on the host. So now we have to see if it's available. Yep. So now you can see that on the local host, OpenStack login is available. All we have to do now is basically put the images on any desired cloud services available, and then you can run OpenStack successfully. I hope this was useful, and thank you for your attention.